Happiness does not lie in happiness, but in the achievement of it. Silence is always beautiful, and a silent person is always more beautiful than one who talks. Originality and a feeling of one's own dignity are achieved only through work and struggle. You must accept it as it is, and hence accept all consequences. A wall is indeed a wall. Men reject their prophets and slay them, but they love their martyrs and honor those they have slain. It is a law of nature that every decent man on earth is bound to be a coward and a slave. I swear to you that to think too much is a disease, a real actual disease. I will put up with any mockery rather than pretend that I am satisfied when I am hungry. How does it come about that what an intelligent man expresses are much stupider than what remains inside him? Marriage is the moral death of every proud soul, of all independence. The best definition of man is a being that goes on two legs and is ungrateful. I may be mistaken, but it seems to me that a man may be judged by his laugh, and that if at first you encounter you like the laugh of a person completely unknown to you, you may say with assurance that he is good. The secret of man's being is not only to live, but to have something to live for. People who can speak well speak briefly. Equality lies only in human moral dignity. Let there be brothers first, then there will be brotherhood, and only then will there be a fair sharing of goods among brothers. Drowning men, it is said, cling to wisps of straw. Being in love doesn't mean loving. After all, bluff and real emotion exist so easily side by side. Man is unhappy because he doesn't know he's happy, only because of that. A real gentleman, even if he loses everything he owns, must show no emotion. Money must be so far beneath a gentleman that it is hardly worth troubling about. Full freedom will come only when it makes no difference whether to live or not to live. That's the goal for everyone. Everything will come in due course if you have the gumption to wait for it. Everyone needs a somewhere, a place he can go. There comes a time, you see, inevitably, there comes a time you have to have a somewhere you can go. And yet I am convinced that man will never give up true suffering. That is destruction and chaos. Why suffering is the sole root of consciousness. Walking along the crowded row, he met the one he used to know. How good life is when one does something good and just. It seems, in fact, as though the second half of a man's life is made up of nothing but the habits he has accumulated during the first half. Here is a commandment for you. Seek happiness in sorrow. Work tirelessly. We have all lost touch with life. We all limp, each to a greater or lesser degree. It would be interesting to know what it is men are most afraid of. Loving someone is different from being in love with someone. You can hate someone you're in love with. Men are made for happiness, and he who is completely happy has the right to say to himself, I am doing God's will on earth. You don't need free will to determine that twice 2 is 4. That's not what I call free will. So long as man remains free, he strives for nothing so incessantly and so painfully as to find someone to worship. But what can a decent man speak of with most pleasure? Answer: of himself. Well, so I will talk about myself. It's the moon that makes it so still, weaving some mystery. Love the animals. God has given them the rudiments of thought and joy untroubled. Don't trouble it. Don't harass them. Don't deprive them of their happiness. Don't work against God's intent. The whole work of man really seems to consist in nothing but proving to himself every minute that he is a man and not a piano key. Love is a teacher, but one must know how to acquire it, for it is difficult to acquire it. It is dearly bought by long work over a long time, for one ought to love not for a chance moment, but for all time. Anyone, even a wicked man, can love by chance. Man is tormented by no greater anxiety than to find someone quickly to whom he can hand over that great gift of freedom with which the ill-fated creature is born. With such a hell in your heart and your head, how can you live? How can you love? In despair, there are the most intense enjoyments, especially when one is very acutely conscious of the hopelessness of one's position. The dreamer, if you want an exact definition, is not a human being, but a creature of an intermediate sort. The most monstrous monster is the monster with noble feelings. As a general rule, people, even the wicked, are much naiver and more simple-hearted than we supposed, and we ourselves are too. It was all quite natural. Human beings are created in order to torment one another. A society should be judged not by how it treats its outstanding citizens, but by how it treats its criminals. Although your mind works, your heart is darkened with depravity, and without a pure heart, there can be no complete and true consciousness. With love, one can live even without happiness. Even in sorrow, life is sweet. Life is sweet, however one lives. If he has a conscience, he will suffer for his mistake. That will be punishment as well as the prison. You mustn't ask too much of human endurance. One must be merciful. I admit that twice 2 makes 4 is an excellent thing, but if we are to give everything its due, twice 2 makes 5 is sometimes a very charming thing too. Anyone who can appease a man's conscience can take his freedom away from him. One must be a great man indeed to be able to hold out even against common sense, or else a fool.